Hello there, friends, and welcome back to Sesh Cast. My name is GLDLX. This is Sesh Cast, a cannabis podcast for cannabis sessions. And today, I am going to put it out there and put on the record that I like Nickelback. And it's going to be a weird episode. But my name is GLDLX. This is a podcast I do called Sesh Cast, where I just get high and talk about stuff. And today I am smoking on Ogre. I think it's just called Ogre. I don't think it's like Ogre Kush or anything. This is the first time I've ever heard of this or ever had this. I just saw it on the shelves the other day and I'm like, okay. It's also the first sativa that I've had in the house in a minute. Like, I have been straight indica for a couple months at least. And so to have a sativa in the house again is a little weird, but nice, because I've been smoking a little bit more during the day lately. Typically, I only smoke at night, just to sort of help me get to sleep and wind down from the day and sort of process through the day. But I try to go about my day pretty sober. And I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, I've been smoking a little bit more during the day, and all I've had are these, like, put you in the couch, put you to bed indicas, and it's kind of not been going so well. So I picked up a sativa this week, and I've been okay with it. I mean, I smoked my first bowl of it like an hour ago, and that was the first I've had of it. So, I dig it. It's nice to have a sativa back in the lineup for a little while. I'm sure I'll get tired of it by the time I think I have. What did I get? Like a quarter of this upstairs, and so I think once I get through that, I'll probably go back to indicas for a bit. I have some other indica too. So that's what I'm smoking on today. I actually was 100% planning on recording outside. I am now recording in my basement, but because I was planning on recording outside, I've got one of these little pinner joints rolled up. I've been doing a lot of these lately. They're super quick and super easy, and when I don't want to be like blazed out of my mind, they're great. So I found, basically, let me give you the backstory. I found this old cigarette roller, sort of joint roller deal that one of my roommates had bought when we were in college, and it had gotten left in a box somewhere. And I never got super great at using them. I actually bought a new one at HempFest that I would love to use for the show at some point. I just haven't gotten around to it, but it was from Futurola. Yeah, definitely Futurola. Excuse me. The Futurola roller, the Future Roller, as I will like to call it, is super great and rolls cones, which is really rad and way bigger and way easier to use than these old school ones. That being said, I never really got good at using these old school ones until a couple of months ago when I first found this thing and practiced with it for a little while and sort of got the hang of doing the tiny little pre-rolled joints. And I really dig it. It's quick, it's easy. You can roll one of these up in like 2 or 3 minutes and less if you've got weed already ground up. They tend to burn pretty well if you smoke them right away. I think if you leave them, they canoe, but they're good if you smoke them right away. And like I said, they're super convenient if I'm not trying to get blazed out of my mind. If I just need to wind down a little bit or need to mellow out, sort of get my thoughts about me in the middle of the day, or I have some time in the middle of the day to take a quick smoke break, I'll roll up a quick one of these, and I'll post a picture of this on the Instagram so folks know what I'm talking about. I should have weighed this out, and I totally didn't, and I totally don't have my scale, or I would weigh this and tell you how much it is. But I would say it's like maybe like 0.2 of a gram. Maybe, I don't know. That it might be more like 0.3 or 0.4. It's very small. But yeah, they're great. I like having them. I like using them, and I'll post a picture on my Instagram so you know exactly what I'm talking about. My Instagram is @SeshCast, just one word. And I've put a number of joints up there. I don't think I've ever put one of these little baby guys up there. So I'll throw that on the Instagram. Speaking of the Instagram, feel free to give me a follow. Post pictures of the stuff that I use, and every once in a while I do more. I'm taking a bit of a break right now. I think there have been a few people who have been A little surprised at how quiet my Instagram has been. I have definitely been pulling back on the Instagram a little bit, and I talked about this a couple episodes ago that I just sort of needed to reevaluate my time and alter the way that I was prioritizing things. And so I've taken a little bit of a slowdown on the Instagram, but hopefully some things are in motion and some life changes are possibly coming that I'll be able to get back into that more soon. And that's exciting. And yeah, so there's that. You can also check out the website for more about each episode. It's a free website. There's not much on it, but it's seshcast.libsyn.com, and it's cool that I have it. I think, the other like housekeepy announcement type deal. I will be in Seattle for PodCon 2 in January. I think that's like the 20th, give or take. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. It's the weekend of Martin Luther King Day. That's Saturday and Sunday. I will be in Seattle that weekend hanging out and doing PodCon stuff. And if you're in the area, I'd love to meet up and say hello and I don't know, hang out with you and smoke a quick one or something like that. I'm sure I'll have a bunch of these little penner joints, but definitely not at the convention. But yeah, I think that's about it. So there's an ashtray. I was gonna say we've got like 5 ashtrays in this room, so there had to be one around here somewhere. So I have an ashtray. This joint is super little, so I might not smoke a ton this episode. I'm already pretty high. I smoked a pretty big bowl before I started recording. And like I said, I was totally going to smoke this outside, but there was this really annoying drip right above my patio. It's been sort of rain snowing here all day, and it's quieted down, and it's a little chilly, but there's only one dry covered section of my back patio, and that was where I was going to record today, but right above it is this super drippy part of the gutter, and I was like, I already did that one recording out back where all you could hear in the background was the air conditioner, and I didn't want to have another experience like that. So that's a really long way to tell you that I have this really little joint rolled up, and I'm going to light it now. So yeah, let me get this going, and I'll take a couple puffs, and I'll be back. I hope you're having a great day. I hope things are good. I hope you're smoking weed. Cheers, friends. I really won't like puff on this too long at a time, so hopefully I can light it a couple times throughout the episode. I do love the joint episodes though. They just feel so much more conversational to me. I don't know. I just really enjoy it. I also just really love smoking joints. I love joints. It is, I would say, tied with glass handpipes is my favorite way to consume easily. Alright, snuff this guy out here. And, no, stop, little guy. Yeah. So, there's this meme that's been going around a lot. I've been seeing it all over the place. Twitter and Facebook and sorry, I'm talking away from the microphone, so I'm probably hard to hear right now. All right. No, stay. I'm just trying to prop the joint up. Okay. All right. So, there's this meme that's been making its way around Facebook and or Twitter and the like, and it's something along the lines of, I get high off people saying that they don't like Nickelback until a Nickelback song comes on, and by the end they're screaming all the words or something like that, something along those lines. And I've actually I've talked about this before too, but I have this list of notes on my phone that's just possible podcast ideas, like topics and such, just idea after idea after idea, no matter how ridiculous or how weird it is. If I think about it, I'm like, man, I could do a podcast about that. I'll just throw it on that list. And so Nickelback has been on my list of things to talk about now for a couple months, but This meme has been going around, and it really made me think about it. And I think that Nickelback points out this really interesting part of our culture. You know, so like I said at the very beginning of the episode, I am straightforward a Nickelback fan. I do really like Nickelback. I think their last couple albums have not been so great, although their latest album was pretty good. But like Silver Side Up was a good album, and I know a lot of people hated Dark Horse, but there were a couple decent songs on that. And yeah, Nickelback takes an insane amount of heat, and they take an insane amount of heat for being a pop rock band, and that's really just what it comes down to. And I just because you don't like the genre doesn't mean that the artist is terrible, is really what it comes down to. So here's the thing about Nickelback. They are the most pop rocky of pop rock bands that I think might ever to exist or might have ever existed. And I don't mean pop rock in the sense of like the Fray as a pop rock band, or oh gosh, who's a pop, there's not really any, pop rock is kind of dead. Um that's a hard one to think of. I don't know. I hear people describe Foster the People as pop rock a little bit these days. Um, but what I'm talking about is uh, rock that follows a formula and that is listener friendly and accessible, and like I said, follows a formula. You know, this it's effectively, Nickelback is effectively the top 40 artist of rock and roll. They make very consumable, very lovable, very formulaic music. A lot of their songs sound very similar. They use a lot of the same chords. A lot of the lyrics are very similar. Um, there are songs that people have mashed up Nickelback with Nickelback just to prove how same the songs are. And I'm not saying that any of that isn't true, because I think that basically all of that is true. Nickelback is sort of generic and, in a sense, kind of simple. Um, but that does not make them bad. That means that they found a road and they followed that road and they've lived and died on that road, and that was the road of making basic, easy, consumable music. Um, if you don't believe that Nickelback has other like styles, I would urge you to listen to This Afternoon from the Dark Horse album first, because that is one of the like pop rockiest of pop rock Nickelback songs, and then listen to Because of You, which I think is on Silver Side Up. Um, that is one of their old school like hard rock songs, and then listen to Feed the Machine, which is the title album or the title track, I think, off of their newest album, Feed the Machine, or it was the lead single, and that album isn't called Feed the Machine. I just don't remember what that album is called. Um, Listen to those three songs, and you will see a very interesting scope of what Nickelback can really do. Um, and it's interesting because Nickelback is a group of incredibly talented musicians. If you get to see Nickelback live, I really recommend you do it because they're really good live. And there's this video of them covering Metallica on YouTube. I think it's Sad But True. Um, Definitely check that out because that will sort of show like Nickelback can hold it together live in a weirdly good way. It's really kind of impressive how great Nickelback sounds live when you listen to their albums, and their albums just sound very like basic and run of the mill and not challenging. Um, I don't mean that in any sort of negative way. Like I said, I really like Nickelback. I'm just trying to sort of justify some of the feelings that I think people have about them as a band. Because the reality of it is, Nickelback has done nothing to catch the insane amount of heat that they catch. Nickelback has done nothing but find a formula and follow that formula until kingdom come. And like, step 1, make a band. Step 2, write accessible music. Step 3, profit. And they're rolling with it, and they're selling records, and they're selling out concerts, and they're doing tours, and they're huge. Everybody knows who Nickelback is. You might not like Nickelback, but everybody knows who they are. They're a gigantic band. A gigantic band. If Nickelback headlined a festival near you and tickets were affordable, you'd go. You'd go just to see what it was like to see Nickelback headline a festival. It'd be ridiculous, but you would go. And that's just the space that they live in, and I think they catch all of this heat for owning the space that they're in. And I think they catch that heat because people don't value the space in which they live. And whether or not you value that space is your own prerogative, and that space being the generic rock that anybody can listen to and learn all the words to and sing along to. Nickelback is like baby's first rock band in a sense. I mean, they're very like, people can listen and get into quickly. You listen to it, it's catchy. It sounds good. It's all earworm shit. All of it. I think you could play some Nickelback deep cuts and B-sides for people who swear they hate Nickelback, and they'd bob their heads along, because that's just the type of band that they are and the type of music that they make. And a lot of people really don't appreciate is the wrong word. A lot of people don't value that space because it's not complex. It's not necessarily unique. It's not new or different. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with that space. And, you know, if you don't want to value that space, all right, whatever. But I think that you should. And I think that you should acknowledge that that type of music exists, and it's not wrong to like it, because that's where we've gotten with that. A bunch of people decided that we shouldn't like Nickelback, and then they started making fun of their friends for liking Nickelback, and now everybody hates Nickelback because it's the thing that you do. It's the opinion you're supposed to have about Nickelback. Everybody who says they hate Nickelback has never heard a song from Nickelback that isn't on the radio. There's a lot of their music out there that, and I'm not trying to put together this giant thesis defense of why you should listen to Nickelback, because if you don't like them, you don't like them, and that's fine. But we have hit a point of everybody hates Nickelback because that's the thing to do, but there's not a lot of base on that to really form an opinion or have an informed opinion. There are definitely reasons to dislike the music that they make and dislike the space that they're in and all of that, but people just trash Nickelback, and they're good musicians, and I think that we need to acknowledge that. And like I said, I dig them. I think they're good. Not everybody does, and that's fine. But Nickelback was sort of my like opener to talk about just how we've gotten to this point as a culture where we hate the things we're told to hate, and we love the things we are told to love, and we don't really value forming our own opinions anymore. We don't put the work in to form our own opinions anymore, because everyone around us is telling us that our own opinion just needs to match everybody else's. So I'm gonna spark this joint back up, and I'm gonna talk about that again, and go a completely different way. Clicked on an episode named Nickelback, and now I'm gonna talk about, I don't know, society and stuff. Cheers. I just feel so classy smoking these tiny little joints. I don't really know why. It's like the old school like filter cigarettes from the old days. Old days. Look at how descriptive I am. So I've been meaning to record new music, like the music you're hearing underneath this. I'd just sit down and put together like a whole album, so to speak, for my own use. Because I've just been reusing a lot of music. I'm going to put this joint out while I'm talking about this. And I really wanted to just make some new beats and shit, and I haven't gotten around to it. So hopefully I will be doing that soon. And then if people would be into it, I would love to like put that somewhere. Like I would put that album of beats out for use. If anybody would be into that at all, like on Bandcamp or SoundCloud or something like that. I don't know. I would definitely put those somewhere. So if anyone would have interest in those like lo-fi beats, and I wouldn't charge for them. I mean, they'd be free to use and royalty free and whatever. If people are interested in that at all, let me know. I don't know, shoot me a message on Instagram or something, or just let me know. I would love to put that music out if people dig it. If not, I'll just keep making it for the episodes. I don't care. But if you would like those beats for yourself, and it would probably be like a beefy mix, I would just make like one gigantic SoundCloud like hour long thing. I don't know. If you would like the music from the episodes, tell me, and I'll get it to you somehow, and we'll figure out what to do from there. Okay, so people hate Nickelback because we're told to hate Nickelback. At least that's how I feel about it. And I think that there's a lot of truth in that, and I don't think that many people would really argue me in that. And I think that that's something that we're hitting with a lot of things. That was super descriptive. I think a lot of people are forming their opinions based on what they're told to think and less on what they think. And you could definitely tie this back to my social media episode or any of the episodes where I've talked about media control and things like that. But the reality is that what you read, what you see, what you hear does a lot to influence what you feel and what you think. And that's by design for sure. Everything, in a sense, is its own form of propaganda. Even unbiased things. It's weird, that every little bit of information you get influences the way you think about things, but that's, I guess, how you could attribute that to unbiased reporting, is that everything influences the way you think. But so many things have at least some amount of bias, and when what we consume is so influential to our thought process, everything carries at least a little opinion one way or another. So when it comes to Nickelback, I think it's a really good example of look how cultural a synthesized belief can be. Look how far this can go. And we have created this whole everybody hates Nickelback thing that I would say has lasted since 2006. I think that was like around the Savin' Me, and if everyone cared, crap, I don't remember the name of that album. Oh, dang it, I have to look. I really need to look. Hold on, let me do some Googling here. Let me figure out when that album was. But I think that it hit this point where everyone decided that they would hate Nickelback, and here we are now at least 10 years plus, 15 years later, that everyone has the same opinion. Nickelback. There it is. Give me albums. Albums. All the Right Reasons, 2005. That was the one. Let's look at the Nickelback albums here real quick. Silver Side Up was a big one, and The Long Road was a big one. That Long Road is, I think, what Because of You is off of. Curb is one that not a lot of people have heard. I think that was their first, and it's way different than you would ever expect. It's way heavier than you would ever expect. Same with The State from '98. But then All the Right Reasons happened in 2005. That had Photograph on it. Dark Horse was 2008, and that one took a lot of heat. Here and Now and No Fixed Address were sort of their comeback albums in 11 and 14, and they're not very good. And then Feed the Machine was 2017. I did get the album, that one right, and it's good. It really is. Um, it's different and political, and I never thought that Nickelback would be a band to get political, but they did it, and I dug it. Um, I mean, they're Canadian, so yeah, there's a whole big rant for you about Nickelback's albums, but I think that Nickelback is this really good face value example of how societal opinion can be formed and how deeply that can go and how ingrained that can become. And it is really, you can correlate, it is really an example that you could correlate or relate, I guess is a better word, um, view as a simile to something like racism or something like homophobia, where this societal hatred is deeply ingrained. And I'm not making an excuse for this. I'm really not. I'm trying to say that societal societal belief is bad, and the ingrained hive mind is bad. And I'm trying to prove that point. So please don't think I'm justifying homophobia or racism. But it's such a deeply ingrained piece of our society, and now that we're trying to tear away at that, it's really, really difficult. I mean, like, if excuse me, if Nickelback had the number one song on the billboards right now, if I were to tell you that the number one artist, bigger than Ariana Grande, bigger than Marshmello, I'm trying to think of who else is like top five right now, bigger than Drake. If I were to tell you that the biggest artist in the world right now was Nickelback with their hit song, whatever, which is a definitely plausible Nickelback title, you wouldn't believe me. You'd be shocked. You'd be stunned, because Nickelback's the ingrained societal hatred of Nickelback runs so deep that it's hard to believe that they could put out something so good. And so when you relate that to racism or homophobia or transphobia or any other phobia that we've got right now, it's easy to see, at least to me, why we're having such a hard time changing people's minds. Because it's so deeply ingrained that, of course, it's going to take more to change somebody's mind and to alter their perception of something that they have been taught for a long time. That's where institutionalized racism comes about. That's a real thing. If you know someone who doesn't feel like institutionalized racism is a real thing, ask them why they hate Nickelback and contemplate their answer, and ask them to contemplate their answer, because they won't have a good one. It'll be something along the lines of, they're bad because it's Nickelback, and it's not. They're not. They're great. Watch them live. So, yeah, there's that. I think the other big thing that is really, really real is something that I like to call the virality of dissenting opinion. That's me. I have that on tape now, and you can't take that, because one day I'm going to go back to school and I'm going to write my doctoral dissertation on the virality of dissenting opinion. But what I'm trying to say is, if there is a culturally accepted opinion and all of a sudden there is a dissenting opinion of it that is incredibly dissenting and completely opposite, that opinion will go viral. And so Nickelback really was very popular in the early 2000s. I mean, like, hugely popular. And one day, somebody decided they really hated Nickelback. And that shit went viral. And here we are, in 2018, where you would probably say to me, I didn't even know Nickelback put out an album last year, let alone did I know that it would be any good. Um, so there's this reality that we live in where we are fed all of this information, and often fed information that is based in truth and based in fact, and then we are hit with a wave of dissenting opinion, and that dissenting opinion is what becomes viral. And things can be so ingrained into society that no amount of evidence can do anything to influence people's opinions. And I don't know, we're just in a weird place as a society, especially as a country here in the US, that our opinion can be so strictly influenced by what's around us, and then it can become so deeply ingrained within us that we believe it is our own opinion, and then we can become so defensive of our own opinion that we are willing to fight and kill for our opinion against people who are against our opinion or have the opposite opinion. Um, and it's led us down this terrible path. And I think that what we're missing a lot of right now is people thinking for themselves and people forming their own opinions. I'm going to light this joint back up while I'm talking because I'm like legitimately running out of time because I got too conservative with this joint. So give me a second. So we've hit this point where, like, you know, we feel so strongly about our opinion and it doesn't really matter why we have it. That we're willing to, like, you know, fight and wage war for our opinion. And of course I do mean this in a political way. When in reality it's not an opinion we've put any thought into, it's just an opinion that we have. But I say we because I think that everybody does this. You know, everybody forms an opinion that they believe is an informed opinion, and often they don't really put any thought into it. Just read something and take it at face value, and nobody puts any thought into what they actually believe and what they actually stand for. And I think that's a huge problem. People don't back up their arguments with anything. People are just told something and then they believe it as reality. And it's a real issue. What I'm trying to say here in this weird episode titled Nickelback is that we need to cut that shit out. We need to form our own opinions. We need to think. We as a species were miraculously given the opportunity to think freely. It's insane. And we just don't. And we need to. So yeah, that's a huge long way to say I think we need to think more. I think we need to form our own opinions. I think that no matter what side of what argument you're on, you should always be taking on more information, and you should always be putting active thought into that information. Don't just learn and regurgitate. And I think a huge problem is that that's what schools in America are teaching kids to do. You know, I think that's a huge issue is education. Sorry, I'm going to put this joint out. I'm going to try and talk one more time, and then I'll light it to finish the episode and like power through it. So I think education is a huge issue here because ever since 2001 and the disaster of the No Child Left Behind program, we have been teaching kids that how you get good is to consume information and regurgitate information when a question is asked about that information. It's all call and response. There's no thinking. There's no forming opinions. There's no what do you think. It's here is the information. Here is the test. Regurgitate the information for the test. And obviously that is a weird place to start, like how is it that us teaching to the test is causing people who won't think about their own or won't form their own opinions 30 years down the line? But scale that up with me. Like, if you are taught for kindergarten plus 6 years of elementary school plus how it was for me, 2 years of junior high school plus 2 years of intermediate high school and 2 years of senior high school, however you want to call it, you're going through 13 years of here is information, here is a test, recall the information for this test. That's how you succeed. That's how you get good grades. That's how you do well. So you scale that up into, your formative teenage or like college, early post-grad years, where suddenly you are outside of the realm of school. You are outside of here's information, learn the information, regurgitate the information, and you're into a working society where problems are more complex and where there's more information to take in, and there's not someone to tell you these are the facts that you should highlight because this is what you'll have to regurgitate in 6 weeks. And because it's all we've known for 13 plus however many plus however many higher education college years you embark on, that's all we've known. And now that we're in a real functioning world and we are tasked with these questions, what do you believe? What do you think? How do you feel about this? All we can do is regurgitate information that we've been told, because that's our knee-jerk reaction. So you carry that for so long, 20 years down the line, you've been regurgitating the same information for so long that there's no way you would ever fail the test. And there's no way that you could ever be told that you were wrong, because everyone around you has been approving of your answer to the test for so long that you assume it has to be right. But in reality, there's no grading on these philosophical life questions or these like huge things of racism or homophobia, or there's no right or wrong answer that you can just regurgitate. What you really need to do is think about it and figure out where you stand on the issue, because I think if we were all a little more free thinking, we would all tend towards the same area of human rights and like just humanity in general, because I think that it's the logical progression, but we're teaching people not to think that way. Holy shit, that was a weird roundabout way to get there. I'm very high. I'm sorry for all that ramble. I do want to clarify that I do think there is a right and wrong answer, so to speak, to racism and homophobia, quote unquote, and all of those phobias. It's just like, don't be. I did a whole episode about racism. I was really high. It was really weird, but you can listen to it. I think it was episode 11, maybe, or 12. I'm not sure. I think it might have been 12. I like the right answer is to care about everybody and believe in human rights for everybody, but I think the reality is that if we all weren't just regurgitating the information we were told is right, we would all form our own opinions about that. We would all realize that not being racist is the right thing because it's logical, and then it would be a more deeply ingrained thing. I don't know. That's where I'm trying to go. I'm going to spark this joint back up. Yeah, cheers, friends. Hold on one second. I will say I got so used to the Randy's papers and having a little wire to hold roaches with, and I really miss that. because I don't have a roach clip down here. So yeah, I know that episode went a lot of ways. I hope that you got something out of it. I hope you got the point. Because I think I lost the point at some point, but I swear to God I had one. And the point was, you don't just have to regurgitate information. You can form your own opinion. I don't know if you got it, but that's what I was going for. So, also I was going for Nickelback's kind of an okay band. Listen to their new music. Form an opinion on Nickelback. So yeah, that's an episode. That's what Sesh Cast is right there. That was a thing. I hope you enjoyed it. Excuse me. And thank you for hanging out and sticking around this long. I really appreciate it. I do new episodes, oh boy, every Thursday. We're coming up on the year mark. This is episode 48. We are 8 weeks away from the 1 year anniversary of Sesh Cast, which is nuts. I can't believe it. I can't believe I've been doing this for a year, but yeah. Next Thursday, new episode. Every Thursday, new episode. Check out the Instagram, that is at SeshCast. Again, thanks for hanging out with me, and thanks for getting through this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I'd love to know what you think about it. I'm always loving to hear from folks, and I love to hear your opinion about stuff. So hit me up, email me, shoot me a DM on Instagram, whatever. It's always open, and I would love to hear from you. Also, feel free to give me an iTunes review if you like. If you want to do a little more help for the podcast, don't feel pressured. Really, it's beyond me to pressure people into liking my shit. But if you want to help out or you feel like you want to do something, an iTunes review is always super helpful. At least according to the podcast advice forums. I don't know. But yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and bounce. I'm going to smoke the rest of this joint while I edit this. And yeah, thanks for hanging out this week. I will post a picture of a joint similar to this one on the Instagram. Enjoy the rest of your day. Check out Nickelback's latest album. Don't be a racist. And as always, my name is GLDLX. This has been Sesh Cast. Thank you so much for listening.